Hi, this is our low-tech demo for our AI-powered Urban Development Architect project on refugees. So our ultimate goal of our project is to help countries assist refugees. Every year, political turmoil and a variety of environmental disasters displace millions from their homes, causing crises that carry over to the nations accepting these refugees. Countries are usually unprepared for these crises due to issues like infrastructure or xenophobia, and their governments are faced with difficult decisions in an attempt to balance humanitarianism and the desires of their citizens. While there are many analytical studies that attempt to display the economic impacts of refugees, both positive and negative, our project attempts to tackle the problem from its root.
Our solution to this issue is a model that predicts the number of refugees and where they will best be suited to emigrate. Using empirical data of former refugee crises, economic data of specific regions where individuals are likely to be displaced to best predict refugees' skill set and work experience, and economic data of neighboring countries to identify where the refugees would fit best. By creating this predictive tool, as soon as a crisis is likely to occur, key decision makers can immediately have a sense of the gravity of the situation and thus can be better prepared to appropriately accommodate the refugees.
The user interface and experience will be relatively light due to the nature of the project. Our project relies entirely on historical data of migration patterns. From here, sets should be periodically updated to maximize accuracy. Another set should include centers that would support a refugee influx, as well as information about the industry surrounding that center. The map on the screen shows an example of information gathered and how users can focus on sections of that map. Our project will match refugees to centers that could host the populations. These connections will be created based upon the historical data of migration from each region and the likelihood that those refugees would be able to integrate into a local economy. This probability will be calculated using a refugee group's skilled labor history, if there exists any, and a destination region's industry and historical migrant economy. We will use a map as shown to make the solutions as accessible as possible.
The technical components of this project are quite simple. After we collect the raw data primarily sourced from the UNHCR, we will have to clean and link the data. These data sets on refugee migration from the countries from which they emigrated are very incomplete. So we will use various data cleaning and linking methods to make raw data useful. After we clean and link data, we will make models. We will use machine learning classifiers and stochastic processes for this. Our final application of our data project will be a website-based data visualization of refugee migration patterns and interface of our predictive model. And it will predict how a refugee group should be relocated in order for the highest likelihood of socio-economic prosperity. The architecture will be based on these technical components. First, we will collect the data. Afterwards, we will data clean and link the module. Then we will model it via machine learning, and then we will visualize this data.
So we've defined our next steps into 4 main parts. The first is that we're going to be meeting with our mentor, James Hodson, who is actually going to be pairing us up with someone in AI for Good Foundation who has more expertise on urban development and the refugee crisis. We will collaborate our data sets and the data sets that they have together to actually go to our next step, which is parsing the data so that we can use this data for manipulation and data analytics. And the third part, and perhaps the most important part, is going to be to use machine learning algorithms to build a predictive model and a visualization for the government. So this is going to consist of heat maps and a user profile interface that can predict where every single refugee should be going in terms of what region they should be going so that they could be the most prosperous there. And the last and final steps is to present this to a local government authority and get feedback from them about how we can build our model to better suit the needs of refugees and migrants from these countries. Sick.